everyone. My name is Stephanie E. Goodall, and I'm BOM's Oral History Fellow. Thanks for joining us for Dindga McCannon's Mixed Media Ventures. Today is the first day of our two-day workshop. In August 2020, BOM released Dindga McCannon by Philip Glenn as a part of our Oral History Project. Since 2014, the Oral History Project has collected, developed, and preserved stories of distinguished artists of the African diaspora. If you haven't read Dindga's oral history already, go to bombmagazine.org, and on the drop-down menu up top, on the far right-hand side, there's going to be a tab that says Oral History Project. So today we're joined by Harlem native Dindga McCannon, an artist who works in painting, drawing, and collage, and in fibers and in prints, as well as writing and illustration. So she's a force. For tonight's Face Collage Workshop, you're going to need a pencil, one good eraser, 2 to 4 sheets of paper. You should have 7 to 10 cut pre-faces ranging from small to large. Okay, if you don't, time does not exist anymore. Markers and a glue stick. So I'm not going to take up too much more time. Dindga, thank you for joining us tonight. The floor is over to you.
And start my video. Okay. Hi, everybody. Welcome to my Mixed Media Workshop Part 1. Today, I'm going to share with you a system that I have for doing faces. This is very, very simple so that anybody can do it. And we have very basic materials that Stephanie has already told you about. So I'm just going to jump right in. First, I'm going to turn my screen down a little bit. Okay, so now you can see what I'm doing. First thing you do, get a pencil. And I put on the supply list an eraser because in recent times, the erasers that come with these pencils, they make ugly marks when you use them. So I got an eraser from the artist store. So first thing you do is figure out where you want your face to go on the page. This is my page here. I'm going to put this one on this side. The first thing you need to do is just to draw a line, and it doesn't have to be straight. People always say they can't draw a straight line. I can't either, so that's not a problem. Sometimes a little crooked line adds a little flavor. Okay, the next thing I'm going to do is do a line across, maybe about a third from the top. Okay, now I put a gauge in my instructions because sometimes people need something a little more concrete than just eyeballing it. So this is my gauge. It's about maybe 1.5 inches, and I put an arrow where the line ends. Then I folded my gauge in half to meet the arrow. Then I'm going to take this part, match it to the center of the cross, and put 2 lines there, one on the right side, one on the left side. Then I'm going to use the full length of the gauge from that line that's here. I'm going to make this darker so you can see it. Another line here. And then I'll move over to the other side and put another line here. These are your eyeballs. The first thing you're going to do is basically use the letter C or something that resembles it or almond shape and just connect a curved line from point A to point B. And then on the bottom, same thing. I call it a C, curved line. That's one eye. Then over on the other side, same thing. Sort of went over there. And then I went to the bottom. Don't be too upset if it's not absolutely perfect. First of all, the human eye and face is not really perfect. Things shift a little. Okay. The next thing you're going to do is where that centerpiece is, you're going to make a triangle from about here. And I'm making my lines dark. You can make your lines light or dark. but you need to be able to see these, so mine are dark. I've made a triangle. At the end of the triangle, I'm gonna make another C on the sides of a triangle like that. And on the other side, like that. And then sort of a wavy line for the nose, for the this part of the nose. Okay, so right now, it looks like, ooh, can you see that? Okay. A little ways down from the tip of that nose, you're gonna put another line. And like I said, this doesn't have to be exact. That's my other line. Then, I'm gonna do this upside down. Another almond shape, sort of like this for the top, or even like a moon shape. And another one for the bottom. The top of this lip, I'm gonna make this into an M shape. And there you have lips. Back to the eyeballs. You're gonna draw circles. Approximately, the circles should be the same on both eyes. So my lady here is looking to the right. So I got one, and then I got two. Okay, I'm gonna color this in, but I'm gonna leave a dot. I call this the dot of life because sometimes in a drawing or a painting, if you leave the eye a solid color, it kind of looks flat. So usually put a little dash of white right there. And we're doing the dash of white by leaving the white paper. Okay, 1, 2. All right, then another letter C or gentle sloping line for the lid on that side. And the lid on this side. Okay. Then a little ways down from the bottom of the lip, you're gonna have the chin mark. Then basically, to form the face is a U. That's the bottom. And that's sort of a U, somewhere between a U and a V. Going up, 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 up. Then I'll put a line here for hair. Okay. 2 straight lines for the neck. If you want some shoulder action, you can just go to the right and go to the left. Okay. The ears. Most ears are right where the middle of the eye is to the edge of the nose. And that to me is another C. And another C on this side. Basically, that's your face. Now, you can, if you like what you see, you can go over it with a marker, leaving out the lines you don't like. Okay, and the hairline. All right. Okay, I'm not gonna fill the rest of it. Well, yeah, I will. I'll fill the rest of it in. Okay. Now, the nose actually, sort of branches out when it gets to the top like that, or you can leave the triangle. And that's basically it. Then the other fun part starts, the collage. I asked for you to do 3 sizes because that way you can get a little perspective. And by the way here, let me show you. That's what it's going to look like more or less when you're finished. I start at the top and I put a couple of the small pieces in there. Okay, that's one. And sometimes I move the people around so that they fit the outline of the face. You can lop off a shoulder, arm, and all that. One thing I forgot. The easiest way to do collage is to go through a magazine and tear out the pictures first. Don't do everything one by one because it takes longer. Tear out the pictures that you like. Oh, let's see. This is a lovely little girl here. Take a pair of scissors, and I cut as close to the person as possible. I don't want to leave any extra colors on the outside. So. That's it. Okay, and now back to the fun stuff. You can what I like to do actually is to put a little dab, like sort of in the middle. This way, if you change your mind, it's not all glued down, because a lot of times you will change your mind because your composition will change as you keep adding. And you're going to just start adding the little pieces. Then I'm going to go to the middle size, right about here. Little dab of do ya. Mm-hmm. Okay, I also started one on colored paper because you don't have to use white paper. You can use any colored paper. You can use pattern paper, whatever. But that's how this one looks. So you're going to continue. Little dab of do ya. Fitting the pieces sort of around the face. Feel free to put people under or over what you've already put down. Okay. Bigger. Put her here. All right. Yeah. Okay, and you can continue until you have the whole page covered. Drawing, when I came along, was, and I guess still today, is a very important part of most artist training. When I was learning, we started with anatomy. We would actually find pictures.
Quick question. Would you mind holding up your illustration? A couple of people in the comments were saying how they couldn't see you drawing.
Okay.
Yeah,
so
I'm gonna interrupt you.
All right, there you go.
Awesome.
Can you see that? Okay, that's one. I've done several. That one, and then, like I was saying, you can also, you don't have to use white paper. You can use any color paper. You can also use paper that has a pattern on the back. That's two. Then I did this one to show you what you can do once you finish. Put it in a mat. Another really fun thing to do is, like, for example, this. I ended up printing it on fabric. And it looks exactly the same way. Of course, because it's printed. Well, what I did was, there's two ways of doing it. The hard way is to take a piece of fabric, also a piece of freezer paper, cut both of them to the size of your printer paper, and run it in a very cheap inkjet printer, and you end up with an image on fabric. I used another way, which is a lot simpler and easier. Meet Miss June. This is June Taylor computer fabric sheets. They come already. They come already to go. This is one. You can find these at Joann's and also on Amazon. Here's the other one. This is another one. They run somewhere between $10 and $20 for 10 sheets, but it makes your life easier. You open up the package, you pull out the sheet, you put your image in your printer, and you put it in, and 2 minutes later, you got a wonderful piece of art. Oh, okay. How's everybody doing? Any more questions? All right, now let's peel this off. This is how she came out the printer. Peel one end, ta-da, and you have a piece of fabric. You could put this in a quilt. You could stitch it onto a tote bag. You could put it on the back of a jacket. The ones that you get, June Taylor, one of these you have to dry clean. The other one you can throw in the washing machine. So it makes your life kind of easy. Okay, so that basically is the project. I assume that you're still gluing because it takes a while to do that. I find it kind of meditative to cut out stuff and to glue. It's a nice, slow, fun process. Alrighty, so now I've got these three. Also, okay, so I've got 12 minutes left before I start my artist tour. Are there any questions? Is everybody got something that they're working on here? This is this one. Oh, and I'm sorry I can't see what everybody's doing, because usually in a live class, I can walk around and see what people are doing and give them some advice or not. Okay, so now, oh, I got a question. It's called, the name of this paper is, again, this is not actually paper, it's actually fabric. June Taylor Sew and Printer Fabric. She's not the only one that makes this, but I think she's one of the most cheaper ones. And this is also another one. This particular one, once you print the fabric, you have to dry clean it. This one in the green pack, you can throw it in the washing machine. So this is the same thing, but it says color fast, sew and fabric sheets for inkjet printers. These should only be used in the inkjet printers. If you use it in your laser printer, you'll be going back to the store and buying another printer because it's gonna mess the printer up. The cheaper the inkjet printer is, the better it is. I think I've got one here for $39, $49, no more than $50. Okay. Okay. Now, I can start my artist talk here. First, I've been making faces probably since 1960 something. I've always liked the face because the face I felt was a gateway to the soul. You can look at somebody's face and sort of have an idea who is really behind that face, sort of. There was an artist in the 60s called Keene, Keene, and he made a lot of money making these faces, mostly of children with huge eyes. 50 years later, I found out that Mr. Keene wasn't even a Mr., it was a woman. She had to allow her husband to take the forefront because women weren't really welcome in the art scene at that time. Okay, so now what I'm wearing, this is one of the things that you can do beyond just drawing. You can paint it. This piece actually is 25 years old. Because I signed everything right over here, 94. The textile paints they make these days are awesome. In the old days, we used to paint fabric and we'd have to send it to a steaming place and let them steam the paint in. Over the years, the paints have gotten very user-friendly. You buy paint, especially for fabric, you paint, you let it dry, and usually you can throw it in the dryer for like 10, 15 minutes, and then you're good to go. I have some other pieces of art here that I'm going to discuss with my faces. I'll start with my angel. This is from the Angel series. A lot of times I work in series because I do a lot of different mediums and it just helps me stay sane and know what I'm doing if I simply do a group of pieces that's sort of similar. So I call them a series. This is one. And she is painted with a face. I've used, this is called golden glass bead medium. It comes clear. You can color it, and it has just a nice texture to it. Here I've glued in, show the faces again. What faces? Okay. Here, this is lace. This is paper. I love myself some paper. That's one. Somebody wanted to see my faces again before I go on, so I'm gonna show them to you. Hope you can see that. That's one. That's the second one. And on this one, sometimes you have white space. You can either leave the white space white or I make a scribble in just to fill up that space and to make it kind of interesting. Okay, that's another one. And this is the one in progress. It's sort of like putting a puzzle together. Okay. Ooh, can't see her. That's not good. Okay, so that's her. All right, on to the other part of the class. This is a piece that I did for a reprint of one of Audre Lorde's books. And once again, I use my face. Here I glued in all kinds of things that I thought she might relate to. Here I've used some gel medium and a lovely piece of African fabric. Within her crown here, because this is her hair, I've got all kinds of stuff. I've got little teeny mini beads. She passed from breast cancer. So I've got the cancer signs here. cowrie shells, keys, just things that I thought that she could relate to. So that's Audrey. Okay. This is a work in progress. This is on paper. This is paper that I had printed and I didn't like it. So I decided to repurpose it. I drew a face on and I'm in the process now of just gluing, instead of photos, fabrics. Okay, this is a poster because the original piece was sold years ago. And this was called The Wedding Party #1. The history of our nation is really the story of families. And here, once again, it's all basically faces and collage. By the way, this was a quilt. This is another piece I'm currently working on. This is an acrylic painting. I haven't given her a name yet. But here, I've used the face, because to me, once you have a face, then you can do anything with the background. I've used something here, maybe you can, I don't know if you can see, but you can see it's cracking. It's not cracking because I did something wrong. It's a cracking medium that you put on canvas. You let it dry for like 3 days, and over the course of 3 days, you get nice cracks. Yeah. Okay. Now, let's see. In my background here, can you hear me? Okay. This is another piece on fabric. This is also a work in progress. So this is fabric that I've dyed, my favorite color, purple. And then once I dyed it, then I started painting over it. I have no idea what's gonna happen over here and over here. That's gonna come to be as I start working on the piece. This is one of my favorite pieces. God knows when I'll finish it because it's been hanging in the studio for about 2 years now. And that's her. This is a technique taking advantage of rusting. I took metal, put vinegar and water, and let it soak. And after a day or two, the rust from the metal made rust, and the rust transferred to the fabric. So I find processes like that fascinating. And then once I rusted the fabric, I went into it, drew the face, and then this was a rubbing, because I found a little rubbing that looked like braids, so I used that to make her hair. You see that? There you go. Okay, this is another work in progress. More than likely, this will end up being a quilt. It started out as a drawing, and then I painted over it. And now it's just kind of hanging around, waiting to see what's next. Somebody asked, what kind of glue do you use on paper and canvas? The best kind of glue is gel medium and also golden soft gloss gel. It dries absolutely clear. They also have special glues for fabrics, but I find that the gel medium and the golden soft gel gloss work the best. They really hold up well. They don't change your paper or fabric in that there's no wrinkles. It dries absolutely flat. Okay, we'll move that back to here. This piece, once again, a work in progress. And the beads say, don't call me girl. My grandmother was, no, don't call me girl. My mother was a maid. Don't call me girl. My grandmother was a maid. Don't call me girl. My great grandmother was a slave. So this is her. She has been attached to a piece of felt. This was painted on cotton, and then I sewed it on to this lovely piece of felt. Can you see them sparkles in there? Because anybody who knows me, you know I'm the sparkle queen. I love shine. And then I started beading it. These are alphabet beads that most people use to make jewelry and stuff like that. But I love them because you can spell out your message and you can say exactly whatever it is you feel like saying, and people will know because it's right there. And I'm also very, very fond of crystals, Swarovski in particular, because they have more shine than any other crystal I've ever seen. Okay. This is kind of an interesting piece because this part of the art, this is cheesecloth that has been glued to a piece of felt. And then I made a silk screen and I screened it on here. And I love the way that the texture, oh, forgot one thing. Up under here, I can do this because it's not finished and I can put it back. Was a piece of gold foil that covered the entire piece. Then I put something called Wonder Under, which is an adhesive on a sheet. And then I ironed that on. And then after it was dry, about 5 minutes, I used my silk screen to print this image on there. Okay, let's see. That's all there. One moment. Okay. This is part of an illustration. I did an exhibition one year on my travels, and this was part of it. So I didn't make it for that exhibition, so it'll make it for the next one. And this was about my night in Guyana, South America, when I was staying in a very strange hotel, and I was kind of scared to come out my room because it was a very strange hotel. And when I did come out my room, I met all of these African women, and they said, "Where are you from?" I said, "I'm from Harlem." And I asked them where they were from, and they were from Senegal and the Gambia. So we had a really nice conversation. Although the language was a barrier and all that, but it was just nice that I was welcomed. And this was done, this is once again, it's done on fabric. It's a sort of a painting, but it's not on canvas, it's regular, this is probably cotton. Yeah, cotton. There. All right. So are there any questions at this point? Any questions? Okay, well, hold on a minute. Grab a couple more pieces here. All right. Okay, this is another way of interpreting a face. There, you see that? This is all bead. I drew the face on here, and then I proceeded to find different types of beads to glue to fill in the contours of the face. I've got bugle, little seed beads. Of course, I had to find some rhinestones, put them in the eyes. And these are coconut shell beads here. And once again, this is a work in progress. Ah. Okay. This is a print on fabric. Most people who make prints other than silk screen, they don't usually think of doing like linoleum cuts and cardboard cuts on fabric, but it can be done. It'll run, you can run it through the printer as though it was a piece of material, and you end up with something like this. All right. This also, these are all works in progress. This one, her eyes are closed, because you can make the closed eyes simply by doing that same C thing instead of the almond. And I've attached this very interesting piece of fabric that I found. And somehow she's going to be wearing this when it's all said and done. Okay. This is a great piece, but I want to rework it because I'm not too happy with what happened here. This is paper and the paper bent. So I have to kind of take it apart and stuff it so the paper will kind of like lose this line. But this is what she looks like at this point. And she's made from, okay. Sort of a velvet fabric. I painted this on a piece of watercolor paper, and I actually stitched it because paper can be joined to fabric. And as long as you don't wash it, it'll make a very lovely art piece. And let's see. Somebody wanted to know about rust. Okay. The rusting technique, you can buy rust in a bottle. Everything is made so convenient these days. But you can also take, like, for example, washers, metal washers, pieces of copper, take a piece of fabric, wrap it around the copper or the washers, pour vinegar in it, and let it sit for a couple of days. And over the course of a couple of days, you end up with the rust that develops on the, that's coming from the metal will transfer to your fabric. Now, Oh, okay. More about my background. For those who don't know me, I have been a practicing artist for, I think this might be my 56th year. It's so many years, I forget, but it's about 56 years. I started out as a child who fell in love with art around 11, 12 years old. No, it was before then, like 9, 10. And I just kept drawing and painting and drawing and painting, drawing and painting. When I was about, in fact, for my 16th birthday, I was raised in Harlem. And on my little after my 16th birthday, a place had gotten my first job at, it was a, what do you call it? A summer camp program in a school. And I got my first job there teaching because the director found out that I liked art and he needed an art teacher. So I became the art teacher. But anyway, he had seen the way you see artists over on the projects, or they had an exhibition. So that next weekend I was over there, and I guess that's where my professional life started. I met a group of artists. They eventually became what is now known as the Way You See Artists, a group that has been together for 50 years, extremely talented artists. And they nurtured me. They kind of took me under their wing. They showed me a lot of things about art, like, the practical stuff, where to get paint, how to stretch a canvas, how to frame a canvas. So they were very, very instrumental in my early career. A few years later, as I began to do more and more artwork and was working professionally, I saw that there was not a lot of women in the art world. So myself, Faith Ringo, and Kay Brown, we got on the phone, started talking, and we eventually called a group, all the women artists that we could find. And those brave ladies came to my house I was on the Lower East Side then. 5th floor walk up, water dripping down the hall, dark in the hall. So these were some very brave women, but they came up, and from that first meeting, we formed Where We At Black Women Artists, the first Black women artists collective. We stayed together for 25 years. Over the years, I guess I started out as a painter, and then through Way You See, there was an artist called Abdul Aziz. He insisted that we get a press because we could make prints. And prints can be sold a lot cheaper than an original painting would. Because at that time, and is now, we felt that everybody should have art in the home. You don't have to be a millionaire. You can buy a print, you can buy a poster, you can have art. I started out, like I said, as a painter, printmaker. Then I went into doing murals because a lot of times what happens is you add, or me anyway, I add on art forms as opportunities come up. I had an opportunity to do a mural. I learned how to do murals. I had an opportunity to illustrate a book. I learned to illustrate a book. And then the artist I was originally working with was a playwright, Edgar White, for my children's books. He decided to go back to playwriting, and I was given the opportunity to write. And as a child or as a young person, I always wanted to write, but I couldn't serve two masters. That's how I put it, because both of those fields take an enormous amount of time. So I chose to focus on the art part, but I came out of my art part to write 2 books, Peaches, which is basically autobiographical, and then Wilhelmina Jones, which is also autobiographical. These were books made for young women, and these were some of the first Black books that came about, and they were published like in the 70s. Now, okay. Yes, there is a way for the person who wanted to know about paper. You can sew on paper. Not all papers, but most papers. Brown paper, very fond of it. However, I have found that with gel medium, which you can get in the art store, sometimes Mod Podge is, I think it's the same thing, just a different name. You cover both sides of it and it makes it sturdier so that when you sew it, it doesn't rip. However, once you stitch a seam or even hand sew paper, you can't take it out because the holes don't go nowhere. They stay there. Now, the name of the glues again, gel medium. Liquitex makes it, Golden makes it, and there are probably a bunch of new companies that make it, gel medium. Soft gel gloss by Golden is one of my favorites because not only can you glue fabric together, but you can also glue stuff. However, I think with this piece, I use good old E600 because I like E600. This is a very good sturdy glue. And I was gluing a lot of things that had dimensions, so I chose to use that. But I could also use the soft gel gloss. Okay. And yes, somebody wanted to know, how do I keep beads from falling off fabric? Glue. A very good glue, the E600 or the soft gel gloss. That will hold the things. They won't come out. It's very permanent and it really holds together. Of course, the old-fashioned way is to simply sit down and sew all of that stuff on one by one. I find sewing beads is extremely meditative. It calms me down. It's just a nice process. But sometimes I don't have the time because the sewing the beads on something takes an enormous amount of time. Sometimes I have it, and sometimes I would like to see something finished fairly quickly, so I'll use glue. Okay. All righty, let's see. My next exhibit, I don't really know at this point. However, I know that in September at the Friedman Gallery, I think it's 161 Bowery in New York, I will be having a major one-woman show sometime in September. And if you're interested in coming, we'll keep your addresses and send you out an invitation. Okay, anything else? Okay. Okay, more about my background. Ooh, I see some stuff coming out. Wonderful. I love that. Like I said, I've been an artist for about 56 years now. I wish I had another 56, but probably not, but you never know. Art is such a fascinating field that you could take maybe 2 or 3 lifetimes before you got around to doing everything that you really wanted to do. I equate my art career with like a marriage that you don't get out of, or at least I didn't get out of it. And you know, sometimes when you fall in love, you do some really crazy things. It's the same with me in art. I wanted to be an artist. So whatever it took to make that come true, that's what I did. That says a lot for, I always say, never, ever, ever give up. Whatever your dream is, you have to get up and start working towards it. Because once, just to talk about it and all that is great, but the best thing is to actually start working on it. In 55 years, I don't know where the time has gone. I've done a lot of mediums, but the problem is there's a whole bunch of mediums I still want to do. So I have to keep living. And I always say, you know, I've done awesome art in the past, but I think the next part of my career, it should be the best part. Oh yeah, one of the things I did with that fabric that I put through the printer, I made a mask. Because I went to the Brooklyn Museum and they had put up the Revolutionary Sister. Can you see this? And when they put it on exhibited, I went to see it. And I wanted everybody to know that I was the artist who did it. So I printed this on the fabric using this here again. And I made myself a mask. So there's all kinds of things you can do with fabric. All right, let's see. Are there any more questions? Any more questions, anybody? Comments? How's anybody doing? Everybody doing? I love what I see over here at Mia. That's awesome. Is it possible to see anybody else's? Oh, okay. All ready. All right, I have 9 more minutes left. One of the things I could talk about is how it feels to be a multimedia artist. Sometimes you might feel a little schizophrenic because today I might want to do paint, and then tomorrow I may not feel like painting. I want to do something else. You want to see a quote, please? Okay. Quote. Let's see if I can grab one real quick. Hold on a second. Oh, yeah, I know one. Okay, got one. All right. This is one of my favorite pieces currently. And it doesn't belong to me. It's on layaway, so sooner or later it's going to leave my house. It's one of my favorite themes, women in jazz. And there, see that? And then surrounding it is pieces from my collection of musical fabrics. And you see that? And what I've done, I sewed all the fabric down, and then I covered it with chiffon. Those old chiffon scarves, you know, that mama used to wear in the 50s. Then I took a heat gun to it and distressed it, which means I get lovely organic type of shapes here. Then one of the things that's kind of fun is that I try to make the back almost as interesting as the front. So I've used music. And over in the corner here is my label. Women in Jazz #8, because this is a series that goes on and on and on and on. And maybe about 10 years ago, I found out that in the 30s, 40s, there were hundreds of all-women bands. And what did I need to find that out for? Because I found that extremely interesting. And a lot of people didn't know about it. So I started making quilts and other art forms dealing with women in jazz, 1920 to 1940. Okay. How do you clean fine art clothes? You don't. Best thing, because first of all, you keep them out of direct light and basically a little dusting. You really don't want to wash them because they may contain elements that don't like water. So basically a little dusting, and that's it. They're very, very user-friendly. Okay, that's it. All right, let me see if I can get one more quilt because I got 5 more minutes. Hold on. Okay, these are 3 little quilts, and they don't have faces in them. However, what they do have is the use of this. This piece here, landscape. This is another one. This is another one. This is from another ongoing series of mine. This is all from Monet's Garden, Giverny in Paris. And the story behind this and my whole Monet Garden series is, as a child, maybe like 16, I have almost no memory of my early youth. However, for some reason, I can clearly remember going to MoMA and seeing Monet's water lilies. 40-something years later, my son was staying in Paris for a couple of months, so I went to visit him. We went to the Visitors Bureau, and lo and behold, there was a flyer saying, "Come to Giverny and see Monet's house and garden." I went the next day. In fact, I did better than that. I probably went maybe 3 or 4 times. The last time I went, I said to myself, you got to find someplace else to go. So what I did, I photographed every square inch of his house and gardens. When I came home, I printed the photograph on this here, quilted it to wool, threw the wool in hot water. And you know, hot water shrinks wool. And I got all these great textures in there. See all of that? And I loved it. So I did 3 of these. And this also is a series. This is just one form. I've done a lot of work with paper in Monet's Garden. I don't have time to go and get it down today, but I'll bring it up for tomorrow so that you can see some of the other things that I've done, especially with paper. Okay, any more questions? I think I'm about out of time here. Let's see. Okay. When I gather, this is the last question, I guess. I got 1 minute, right? When you gather collage items, does a theme come first or does it emerge from what you find? Frankly, I just collect stuff. Things that are interesting. Sooner or later, it will find a place in my artwork. If it doesn't, it'll just sit there until the right canvas comes along. Most artists, some people may call us hoarders, particularly quilters, but I don't think we're really hoarders. We're collectors. We collect things because as you go through life, sometimes you see things and You don't know exactly what purpose it has, but you know it's too interesting to leave it where it is, so you have to bring it home. And sometimes I always joke with my friends, I can't remember what I did yesterday time, but I can remember almost everything that I own and that I've collected, where I got it from, how much it cost, and how long it's been in the studio. So that's it. Let's see if there's any other. So, and my themes, a lot of times my themes, I'm very interested in women's history, Black women's history in particular, because I don't think the whole story has been told. And back in the 60s, a lot of the artwork that I saw dealing with women, it showed women as mothers and carrying babies and all of that. And I felt that we were so much more. So over the years, I've just sort of focused on Black women's history and anything else. And also another way of themes is that you get invited to exhibitions, and the exhibitions have themes. Um, let me see, none of these. This, I think, went to City Hall here in Philadelphia, and the theme was jazz. So this is what I did for that. And a lot of times, I don't like to work with themes because then you're forced to focus in on something. But at the end of the day, I embrace it because if somebody says a word, you as an artist have full reign in how you're going to interpret that. The only problem with me sometimes is that I want to do my own, whatever's in my own head, whatever thoughts I have, whatever topics I have. So I guess the happy medium is doing some exhibitions with themes, but then having plenty of time in between to work on my own projects. And that keeps me very happy as a human being and as an artist. Yeah.
Wonderful, Dingda. Thank you so much for sharing your time with us tonight.
You're welcome.
We so look forward to it. We so appreciate it and we look forward to tomorrow. Thank you, everyone who commented, who gave a question, who was interacting in the chat section. Thank you all so much. Our program tonight was made possible by and in part by Humanities New York with support from the National Endowment for the Humanities. When you're finished with your projects, we know people are still working, still getting their creative juices flowing. Please post them to Instagram and follow and tag at BOMB, B-O-M-B, mag, for a chance to win a free 1-year print and digital subscription. Also, if you're not on Instagram, for everyone who's not on social media, you're able to email a picture of your work to Dindga McCannon Workshop at gmail.com. We look forward to seeing your creations. We're super excited. This was a great opportunity. I hope you all have a great rest of your night.
Yeah, thanks for coming. Stay creative.